Hey guys, Shino here. Um, I wasn't really originally gonna make a video about this just because one, it was kind of it happened and I felt like it was over and maybe people just kind of move on. But after the event happened, Asmongold decided he wanted to speak out against, I guess, Esfand for what he did, which I mean makes absolutely zero sense to me. But I wanted to one take a moment to, I guess, quickly explain what happened, and then one explain why I think what Esfand did was right, and also where I think Asmongold's mind is and why he ended up saying what he said. But let's start. Let's let me quickly recap you for those who don't know what's going on. So I guess in one of the most recent streams with OTK or all those guys, whatever the Miskiff crew or whatever, um, they were joking around and doing memes and pretend or well they were basically drinking, eating, playing games and having fun and stuff like that. And during that time, a streamer named JustaMinx was essentially messing around with another streamer named Cutie Cinderella. And Cutie Cinderella was trying to get Minx to basically drink alcohol or take a shot or whatever, or to drink from the bottle. Now, during this time, whatever the reason was, um, Cutie was trying to get Minx to drink, and Esfand stopped Cutie from letting her drink. And he didn't just do this once, he stopped her multiple times because Cutie continuously kept trying to give alcohol to Minx, and Minx kept trying to take it, and Esfand kept stopping her. It was at least 3 or 4 different occasions where he's like, hey, no, seriously, she can't drink, blah, 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 blah. And so there were some people who were kind of confused by the situation. To my understanding, I don't know. To my understanding, this was supposed to be a running joke, but not everyone knew it was a running joke. Is that Minx sometimes is on medication like oxycodone, and oxy is a very powerful pain drug for those who don't know. But it is one of the main things you don't do if anyone's ever been around people who have to take drugs, both medically and non medically. There are some drugs you don't mix, and alcohol and oxy is one of them. You generally don't want to mix anything, any type of real heavy medication with alcohol, but especially with things like oxycodone and things like that. In some extreme situations, they can kill you. So, knowing or at least being under the impression that Minx had just taken oxycodone earlier in the day, Esfand was basically doing his best to make sure that no one gave her alcohol during this event. And this is kind of the whole back and forth, back and forth. Now, it came out later, whatever the reason was, that essentially Minx was just memeing or joking around. She doesn't actually take oxy, wasn't actually on oxy, or at least at the moment she wasn't actually on oxy. So it was fine for her to drink, which is why she was continuously trying to drink. But again, Esfand doesn't know this. All he knows is that she has been taking Oxycontin, or at least under the impression is, and he knows the dangers of mixing Oxycontin with alcohol. So he was doing his damnedest to make sure, hey, like I know she's joking and memeing and saying she was a drink, but she can't drink. Don't give her any, and stopping her over and over again. Now, in and of itself, I felt like this would have been fine. It happened. It was kind of an awkward situation, kind of an awkward exchange. Everybody found out why Esfand was being so protective and why Minx was like just kind of ignoring him, trying to be protective. Whatever the case might be, we're kind of moved on past it. But afterwards, later on, I guess people are responding to the situation, and Asmongold chimes in that he feels it was inappropriate for Esfand to stop her from drinking alcohol. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, because one, I think that's ignorant and stupid. I'm just gonna get that out there now. But for those of you guys who don't know, I do to some extent understand why Asmongold said this. Don't agree with it, but I understand 2 major reasons, in my opinion, how he may have got there through his mind. One, I don't, to my understanding, Asmongold isn't a social person. He isn't a social butterfly. Outside of, he's really popular now because of World of Warcraft and things like that. But outside of the people he's met in his guild and the relationships he's made online, to my knowledge, he was not the type of person who went out and partied and hung out with people who regularly did drugs or anything like that. So, and realistically, I just don't think he regularly hangs out with people, not even just in those party settings or things like that, where, you might have to stop someone from taking something, but just in general, I don't think he may have some friendships, he may have, his family and things like that, but I don't think he really has a lot of interpersonal relationships outside of his personal family and the people that he's met recently streaming. Um, that being said, obviously, I understand. I don't want to say that these people don't know how to act or aren't completely, normal, but realistically, from being at a lot of these streamers events and hang out with a lot of these people, a lot of them aren't totally socially like up to date, if you would. They weren't the kids who went out to parties in high school and things like that. And so there's a lot of things that we kind of do as a community and normally that is kind of normally expected that he may not have learned just due to his personal upbringing. That being said, it is not uncommon when you know a friend who's had too much to drink or is mixing certain drugs or things like that to watch over them or to basically tell them what they can or cannot do. No, you doesn't make you their parent or their guardian, but that doesn't mean that you won't intervene to stop them from doing something that may hurt themselves. Um, Now, the reason why I think Asmongold said this, outside of maybe he just doesn't know better, is one, if you guys don't know, his mother passed away recently. I'm not gonna go into whether what he did was right or wrong during the time. He has his own story there and he has his own opinion on it. But one of the things that did come up during the time before she passed was there was a moment in which the doctors wanted to keep her at the hospital so that they can continue treating her and running tests, and she just wanted to go home. She was just tired of being at the hospital. Ultimately, Asmongold sided with her and basically did what he could to get everything he could so they could still care for, quote unquote, care for her at home, but let her come home instead of having hospital staff there to look after her and watch her. Which, I mean, due to some incidents from what I've seen, may not have been the best idea because at some point she was trying to smoke and almost set the house on fire and doing all sorts of things that she's not supposed to be doing, but that's neither here nor there. The main point is, instead of doing what the doctor said was best and what was probably best for her if he wanted to keep her alive, he decided to do what she wanted to do, which again, I'm not going to say whether or not that decision was right or wrong. However, I will say is being in a similar situation myself in the past few years with my father, there was a similar situation where he didn't want to go to the hospital. I felt he should. And instead of listening to him and just letting him stay home, I forced him to go to the hospital with me. And within 20 minutes of us getting to the hospital, his lung had collapsed. And had he not basically already been being tested by the doctors when his lungs collapsed, he would have died within minutes, if not less. So literally the point of me forcing him to go to the hospital basically saved his life. And he's now here. He was maybe 78 at the time, maybe a little bit younger. And he just had his 80th birthday. Today is his 80th birthday. So, very least, we got another 2 years out of him. Hopefully, we'll get many more. But the point being is he wouldn't have lived to see this birthday had I not taken him to the hospital, even though it was against his will. That being said, I only know to do something like that because even before taking care of my father now, when I was much younger, I assisted my mother in taking care of my grandfather and my grandmother. And I don't want to get too biblical on you, but one of the things the Bible says is that you will be once a man, twice a child. And generally what that's referring to is one, you will be a child. Someone will have to take care of and look up to you or look after you till you're about the age of 13 to 18, depending on, where you are in the world. And then after that point, you're pretty much on your own up until about, if you make it these days, to the age of maybe 50, 60, 70. And then if you were lucky enough to make it to be 60, 70 years old, eventually just over time, there are going to be things that start to go. You're not going to be as strong as you once were. You're not going to be as quick-witted or smart. You're not going to be as attentive as you were at age 30. I'm turning 30 this year, so I'm halfway there. I know that I'm going to enjoy the next 30, but I know after that it's going to be something else. And ultimately, when you hit that second time of being a child, your parents are more than likely already gone, meaning they're not going to be there to take care of you. And in those situations, the only people who are going to be there to take care of you are going to be your children or maybe other people that you had in your care or your village or your community at that time. That's it. Ultimately, when you're in this mindset, you start to become a child again and you regress more with, like I said, more than just physically, you start to regress mentally as well. You stop prioritizing things the same way, same thing you would, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, you are going to start making worse decisions. And it is going to be up to the people around you to help you at some point, to make the decisions that are best for you, because eventually, just like when you're a child, you won't know how or just won't want to do it for yourself anymore. And so my reason for bringing all this up is I'm not going to say what he did with his mother was right or wrong, but I do think that the only reason why he would say what Esfand did was wrong was in order for him to say what Esfand did was right, he would have to admit that what he did with his mother was wrong, and I don't think he's ready to do that. And regardless if that's the case or not. But again, when you're with people, when you're with a community, the point of we're social animals by nature and ultimately being social creatures or social people, our goal when you're in these groups is to make decisions that are not just the best for us individually, not even just the best for that person, but always what's best for the group. And if that person wants to do something, they want to drink and drive. They want to mix drugs and alcohol. They want to go home with that weird guy or weird girl that they just met. It is a responsibility of the group or the people leading that group to look after the people who may be impaired to help make those decisions for them when they can. And I think telling someone who may be on oxycodone or some other drug that it's their life and they can drink as they want is no different than letting someone get drunk and then telling them, like, letting them drive home. There are some people who say, hey, it's their car, it's their choice. But I think a majority of people in our current society would agree that if someone's drunk, we don't let them drive home. And if someone's medicated, we don't let them mix drugs. Again, these are things that you learn being out in the world and kind of intermingling with people, and he may have missed these things. So I don't want to judge him for it, but I just wanted to make sure I personally just wanted to put this out there as a counter statement, mainly because Minx has kind of apologized, Esfand apologized and kind of moved on, and the final word on it from what I've seen so far has been saying that what Esfand did was wrong. And I know Asmongold has a pretty sizable audience, so I wanted to at least put some pushback against that instead of everyone just moving past it. I want to push back, hey, no, what Esfand did was right. What Esfand did was appropriate. Admittedly, he did not have all the information, but based on the information he had, what he did was for the good of both JustaMinx and everybody at that event. Because if she had been on drugs or had she been on oxy and Cutie had given her alcohol and she died because of it, that would have been on Cutie's conscience, that would have been on Esfand's conscience, and even though it would have been Minx's life that was lost, that still would have been something that affected everybody else in that group going forward, and would have more than likely changed the way they handled all their events going forward as well. So again, ultimately, I just wanted to say I think what Esfand did was right. I don't agree with Asmongold at all, and not only do I not agree with it, I think that he should not have come out saying that what Esfand did was wrong. Regardless of his personal opinions on how he handles things with his family, that is not the way normal people in communities handle situations of distress like that. But that's all. I wanted to make sure I got that out there. I don't have much else to say here. I just really wanted to get that out there because I felt like it needed to be said. That's all I got for right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, my name is Shinobazu, your gaming and Iron Ninja, and I'll catch you guys later, alright? Deuces.